Today on the CTV News at 5, a manslaughter sentencing hearing is underway for a Lethbridge man who had a second-degree murder conviction overturned. Plus, what the Bhutanese community is saying after new immigrant to the city is killed in a police-involved shooting. And the search continues for the bodies of two women killed in the Johnson Landings, BC landslide.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. A sentencing hearing is underway for a Lethbridge man who had his second-degree murder conviction overturned and then was found guilty of manslaughter. The victim was this man, 37-year-old George Shawnee Many Shots. He and his brother-in-law were discovered badly beaten in a North Lethbridge back alley in June of 2008. Many Shots later died from his injuries. In November of 2009, Bradley Gray was found guilty of second-degree murder in the death. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 10 years. But then, just in February, the Alberta Court of Appeals overturned Gray's murder conviction and replaced it with manslaughter. They ruled the trial judge erred in his charge to the jury. The sentencing arguments have been underway since 1:30 this afternoon. The Crown and defense are asking now for a 30-day psychiatric assessment before the sentencing can continue. The Canadian Bhutanese Society in Lethbridge says many local Bhutanese residents are saddened and shocked by the tragic death of a community member over the weekend. The Society has identified the victim as Raj Puri, who resettled in Lethbridge in November of 2011. Terry Vogt has more.
Hemlal Timsina is president of the Canadian Bhutanese Society in Lethbridge. He says many local Bhutanese residents are saddened and shocked by the tragic death of a community member over the weekend.
We are totally lost. We are very sad, and everybody wants to know more information, what is going on, when we can find out what happened.
The 26-year-old man was shot late Sunday night by two police officers responding to a disturbance at a home in West Lethbridge. The Bhutanese Society has identified the person killed as Raj Puri, a farm worker who immigrated to Lethbridge in November of 2011 along with his parents. Parents who are now grieving and still wondering how this could happen.
They have a lot of concerns. They thought it didn't have to go down that route. And they thought it's like, they called the authorities for their safeguarding and the safeguarding of the person who was, involved. But it happened so fast that, they couldn't even explain or something like that. That's what they said.
Those close to the family say there were a dozen people in the house, including some children, when police arrived. But apparently no one witnessed the shooting. Family members have been moved to temporary accommodations. Understandably, they're reluctant to return home after what happened. Immigrant Services says it will continue to look after and support the family as well as other members of the Bhutanese community.
What we need to do is continue to impress upon folks that this is a very, very rare situation, and that by and large the police are a community service and they are here to protect and serve us, and also to assist the Bhutanese community and everybody else in the community to understand that the police service has its processes, its procedures.
The investigation has now been turned over to the Alberta Serious Incident Response Team to determine whether the officers were justified in using their firearms. Terry Vogt, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Puri's body has been sent to the medical examiner for an autopsy. It will then be returned to the family for funeral rites. Arrangements have yet to be finalized. And two women face several charges after a 69-year-old man claims that he was unlawfully held, assaulted with a weapon, and then robbed in North Lethbridge. Police have released this photograph and issued warrants for 27-year-old Cheyenne Sue Williams of no fixed address. 19-year-old Brittany Annette Twig of Lethbridge is in custody and was scheduled for her first court appearance today. Yesterday morning, a man reported that two women, including one he knew, came to his home in the 9th Avenue North block and demanded cash. When the man didn't provide any, the women tied him up, assaulted him, stole his wallet, and then fled in his minivan. The victim was able to free himself, call police, and was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Anyone with information is urged to contact police. A preliminary hearing date has been set for a Cranbrook woman charged with second-degree murder in the death of a toddler in her care. 28-year-old Tammy Bouvette, a mother of 4, is charged in the death of 19-month-old Iana Tipel. Iana's lifeless body was pulled from the bathtub of Bouvette's home in May of 2011. Bouvette was charged last October and then released in November. After being charged 3 times with breaching her release conditions, Bouvette was taken back into police custody. A preliminary hearing into the toddler's death has been set for August 28th to the 30th. The hearing will determine if there's enough evidence for the case to go to trial. The lawyer of a former Tabor man facing decades-old sexual assault charges expects that his client will enter a plea at his next court appearance. Michael Dietrich was in Tabor court this morning representing 50-year-old Jordan Van Voorthiezen. In February, Van Voorthiezen was arrested in Greece and extradited to Canada. He faces 2-decade-old counts of sexual assault against a 16-year-old. He was released on bail but can't have contact with anyone under the age of 16 or possess a computer. Dietrich expects to set a preliminary hearing date for Van Voorthiezen on August the 7th. And one of the brothers charged after a pickup truck crashed into a Tim Hortons at Tabor was back before the courts today as well. 27-year-old Jake Cron faces charges of auto theft, dangerous driving, and impaired driving. In March, security cameras caught a stolen oil rig slamming into a pickup truck, which crashed into the side of the coffee shop. Jake's brother, 26-year-old Heinrich Cron of Sterling, faces charges of obstruction and public mischief. Jake Cron will be back in court August the 7th. We've got David Spence filling in for Dory Rossiter today. Well, she takes some much-deserved time off. But how about that forecast? Is this the days that you want to have off, David?
Oh, I think so. If you're going to hang around southern Alberta, for sure. We're looking at temperatures perhaps even reaching 30 degrees again later on this week. Plenty of sunshine to come in southern Alberta, a little bit more unsettled to the north of us. Tell you how warm it's going to get, how sunny it's going to be through the rest of the week. And while I'm at it, I'm going to talk about dog food. Jackie?
Well, I think a good plan is when the weather person takes time off, you should take time off too. Apparently that works well. Thanks, David. 24 search and rescue workers are using heavy equipment to find the bodies of 2 women killed in last week's landslide in Johnson's Landing, BC. They're focusing their efforts on the area where 2 bodies have already been found. Today, searchers confirmed they found the remains of one of the Weber sisters, though they're not sure which sister. 17-year-old Rachel and 22-year-old Diana were reportedly making breakfast in the kitchen of their father's cabin when the slide hit. Their dad's body was recovered over the weekend. Searchers are also focusing on the foundation of the cabin where a 64-year-old German woman was staying. Meantime, relief at the site of the mudslide near Fairmont Hot Springs. A road has been built to help move campers stranded by the slide. Hundreds were stuck when a wall of water, mud, and debris poured down Fairmont Creek Sunday afternoon. Some families were separated, stuck on either side of the creek when a bridge washed out. Incredibly, no one was hurt in the slide. All government services are now restored following a fire in Calgary. Last Wednesday's blaze knocked out computer systems holding Albertans' personal, health, and financial information. Some surgeries even had to be rescheduled. All services affected by last week's fire at Shaw Court have now been fully restored, including the motor vehicle registry and land title system. Drivers with licenses that expired on or after July 1st will still be given until the end of July to renew. And a new agreement could bring some welcome calm to one of Africa's conflict zones, but an end to the violence can't come soon enough for a former Congon and Lethbridge resident. Juvenile Kalola has been in Canada for 17 years now, but his native Congo has never left his mind. The presidents of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have agreed to allow a peacekeeping force into their shared border region, primarily to ease the threat of violence from a rebel group called M23. Kalola says it's a start, but he's hoping Canadians can help bring an end to the violence by calling their MPs and raising awareness about the ongoing conflict in his homeland.
This is the worst time of my life. It's seeing my country back there being assaulted and being able to do nothing. So this is what is prompting us to undertake this little action and just to try to raise awareness on this issue.
Kalola says a growing concern from the conflict is violence and looting. University of Lethbridge needs some guys and girls willing to play with toys for an interactive gender study. Participants will use Lego puzzles to investigate how men and women differ in visual searches. Researchers are looking for people between the ages of 16 and 30 and then over the age of 60 as well to take part. The study takes about half an hour and comes with a $5 compensation. To participate, you can call 403-715-7831 to schedule a time. Well, the Alberta Farm Safety Centre is committed to eliminating farm-related injuries and deaths in the province. Their school programs focuses on teaching students about the safety challenges on working on a farm and how they can protect themselves. With more, here's this week's Farm.tv.
Vulcan student Carlin Clement remembers the farm safety lessons.
I always remember doing the presentation and doing the Jeopardy thing or whatever we used to do there.
In the summer of 2011, Carlin had an accident on his farm with his dirt bike. Just before school ended for the summer of 2012, he went back to Vulcan Prairie View Elementary School and joined Alberta Farm Safety Instructor Laurie Blake to speak to the younger students about his accident.
I'd like to get the message around as much as possible to keep other kids from having to go what I went through. And I'm not saying that it's never ever going to happen again, because accidents do happen as I know, but I want to make it so it's less possible. June 5th of last year, I was riding my dirt bike around my house here. It was about my second or third lap, and I was coming around my corner down the straightaway here, and right behind me the Caraganas. My dad pulled out with a tractor. We couldn't see each other, and I hit my leg on the front of the tractor on a metal beam.
Carlin had been traveling at 80 kilometers per hour when he hit the beam of the front of the tractor. Carlin was wearing all his safety gear.
But if I didn't have this, gone, for sure. And that's why, like, every time I ride my dirt bike, I make sure I'm wearing full safety gear. I was doing a farm safety presentation to really promote that children should use safety gear when they're riding any kind of motor vehicle.
Farm TV is brought to you by DA Building Systems.
Coming up after the break, we'll tell you about a study that's having a profound impact on MS patients. First, though, an update for the markets. Here are the closing numbers.